The royal hall of Zorelia was glowing with soft blue light. The floor polished like glass, and strange floating orbs shimmered above the crowd. Human diplomat Jace Carter stood at the center, dressed in a formal dark suit, sweat collecting at his temples. Despite the cold air, alien nobles in silver robes stared down at him from above. Their faces emotionless, eyes glowing faintly purple, and then she arrived. Queen Thalara stepped forward, tall and graceful, her skin like liquid pearl, her crown made of crystal wings that fluttered without wind. When she spoke, her voice echoed. Like song and thunder mixed together. "You ask for peace, human," she said. "But peace is not given. It is proven." Jace bowed respectfully. "We offer technology, trade, and protection. We wish to be allies." The queen tilted her head, amused. "Words mean little here," she said, then turned toward her advisors. "What proof does humanity offer? What sacrifice?" Whispers rose from the chamber, and one voice called out, "Let the human bond with one of us if he dares." Jace blinked, confused. Bond? What kind of bond? A young female stepped forward from the crowd, her silver robe sliding across the floor, her eyes glowing like twin stars. She was beautiful in a strange, alien way-smooth lavender skin, high cheekbones, and a calm gaze that hid deep thoughts. "I am Viraya," she said softly, "daughter of the fifth house." Then she looked at the queen and bowed. "I volunteer." Gasps echoed through the hall. The queen narrowed her eyes. "You know what this means, child?" Viraya nodded, and then turned to Jace. "If humanity wants trust, we must bond fully." Jace frowned, still lost. "Wait, what do you mean bond fully?" Viraya took a breath, then looked him straight in the eyes. "Our queen demands proof of loyalty," she said. "Only mating can convince her." The room fell into dead silence. Jace felt every heartbeat in his chest, loud and echoing. He looked around. Some aliens looked amused, others shocked, and some stared at him with clear hatred. "Is this a joke?" Jace whispered, more to himself than anyone. Queen Thalara stepped down from her platform and stood just a few feet from him, her gaze heavy. "Our kind does not believe in lies." "Human," she said, "you will accept or refuse, but your answer will decide whether peace or war follows." Jace tried to breathe, his mind spinning, back on Earth. His training had covered diplomacy, strategy, and culture, but no one had ever prepared him for this. He turned to Viraya, who stood calm, waiting. "Why?" "You?" he asked quietly. "Why volunteer?" Viraya's expression softened. "Because I've seen your kind in my dreams," she said. "And because if I don't do this, someone worse might." He didn't understand what that meant, but something in her voice felt honest. The queen raised her hand. "Decide, Jace Carter of Earth," she said. "Do you accept the bond? Or do you return to your world without our alliance?" Jace looked once more at Viraya, and in her eyes, he didn't see seduction or mockery. He saw a strange kind of strength. This wasn't just a ritual. He realized this was a test, and not just for him but for humanity. He stood up straighter and gave a slow nod. "I accept," he said. "For peace," Viraya bowed her head slightly, a flicker of emotion crossing her face, relief, maybe even respect. Queen Thalara smiled faintly. "Then let the bonding begin," she said, and motioned toward the inner chamber. Guards opened the ancient crystal doors, revealing a glowing chamber of swirling light and symbols on the walls. As Jace stepped forward, he heard someone mutter behind him. "Poor fool. He has no idea what he just agreed to." He paused, but didn't look back. Whatever lay ahead, he had chosen it, and so had she. Together, they entered the light. The doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder, and the entire court waited to see what would come out. As the crystal doors shut behind them, the light inside the chamber wrapped around Jace and Viraya like soft flames. The floor pulsed gently under their feet, and the air felt heavier, charged with strange energy. Jace glanced at Viraya, who now looked different under this light. Her skin shimmered like stardust, and her long silver hair floated slightly, as if touched by invisible wind. Neither of them spoke at first. Only the quiet hum of the chamber filled the silence. "This is the heart of proof," Vera finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "No one comes here unless the Queen commands it." Jace took a step closer. "What happens now?" She turned to face him, her hands folded in front of her chest. "We begin the bond." He swallowed hard, still unsure of what that meant. "Explain it to me, please." Simply, Viraya nodded. "This is not just a test of body, but of mind, spirit, and trust," she said. "We will connect our memories, our fears, and our truths." Before Jace could ask more, glowing lines on the floor formed a perfect circle around them, and the energy in the air suddenly spiked. Jace gasped as warmth rushed through him. Not painful, but overwhelming, as if something ancient had awakened. "Step into the circle," Vera said gently. "Do not leave it until the ritual ends." He followed her, and the moment both of them stood inside, the chamber responded. Symbols on the walls lit up, and a soft melody began to play from where he didn't know. Then came the visions. Jace blinked as memories not his own flowed into his mind. Vera's childhood on a crystal plane. Her people training her to hide emotions, to obey, to serve the royal line. Then came fear, her first glimpse of humans during a transmission. War taught to see them as unstable, selfish, dangerous. Jace staggered back, holding his head. "What is this?" "Our minds are opening to each other," Vera said, her own voice shaking now. "Let it happen." His own memories flooded out, his sister's laughter on Earth, the taste of real coffee, the burning ruins of a city during the Andari skirmish, and his fear of being weak. Suddenly, Viraya gasped and stepped closer, her hand grabbing his. "You lost people," she whispered, her voice full of sudden understanding. "You hate war, like I do." Their thoughts twisted together like threads pulled by unseen hands. Now saw a hidden part of Hirsch. She never believed in the Queen's path, never wanted to be used as a tool for diplomacy. Yet, she had volunteered anyway because she'd seen his face in a vision, long before they ever met. "I don't know what this means," Jace said, struggling to breathe. "But I feel you." The chamber darkened suddenly, the glowing walls dimming, until only their hands and eyes were lit. Then a cold whisper echoed in the room. Not from either of them. "One of you hides a lie," the voice said, hollow and ancient. Jace's heartbeat raced. "What is that?" "The guardian of the bond," Viraya whispered, her grip tightening. "It tests truth." The shadows circled them like slow-moving smoke. And Jace felt something enter his thoughts, searching, digging, pulling at the walls he didn't know he'd built. "You came here with doubts," the voice growled. "You saw her as a political tool." Jace felt ashamed. "I did." At first, the smoke hissed, then moved to Viraya. "You wanted him to fail," it accused. "So you could prove humans unworthy?" She trembled, lips shaking. "Yes, I was afraid. I didn't want to bond with a stranger." Silence followed, thick as stone. Then the chamber responded with light again, brighter this time, warmer. And the voice faded. "You both told the truth," Vera said, breathing hard. "We passed the first part." Jace collapsed to his knees, exhausted, but amazed. That was only the first part. She helped him up, smiling faintly. "Next is the bond of touch, pure and respectful. But it must be real." Jace hesitated, but then slowly took her hands. Their fingers linking, energy flowed again. But this time it didn't hurt. It comforted. It understood. And then, for a brief second, he heard something her thoughts clearly. He's not what I expected. He's better. He opened his eyes to find her watching him, surprised that he had heard it outside the chamber. No one knew what was happening but inside. Two hearts had taken the first real step toward unity. The ritual wasn't finished, but something had already changed between them. Something the Queen could never command nor control, and it had only just begun. The chamber walls faded into a dark blue glow as the energy around them began to settle. But Jace still felt the bond humming deep inside his chest like a second heartbeat. Viraya stood close, silent, her gaze focused on nothing and everything. At once, then without warning, she stumbled. He caught her before she fell, her body cold and trembling, her hands gripping his arm like she was holding on to the edge of a cliff. "You okay?" Jace asked quickly, trying to lower her gently onto the glowing floor. I don't know," she whispered. "Something's wrong. The link is shaking." Jace looked around, but the room remained quiet. No shadows, no voices. Just the dim hum of light flowing through the crystal veins in the walls. Suddenly, Vera clutched her head and gasped. "No, someone's watching." Nuss, before he could respond, a pulse of strange static slammed into his mind like ice water. And images not his own burst into view, two figures speaking in shadows. A sigil of the Queen burning in the air, and a voice he didn't recognize. "If the bond fails, blame the human," the voice said, cold and calm, "and remove the girl." Jace's eyes flew open, breathing hard. "Viraya, someone wants this ritual to fail on purpose." She nodded weakly. "A rival house? Maybe. Or someone inside the palace. Why?" he asked, voice shaking. "Why sabotage their own queen's plan?" "Because not everyone wants peace," Vera said. "Some believe bonding with a human weakens our purity." Jace clenched his fists, "So they want to frame me. Ruin this bond and use it as proof." "Yes," she said, looking up at him with fear in her eyes, "and they'll try again outside the chamber." No one knew what they had seen. But now, the ritual wasn't just a test, it was a trap. And they were already caught in it. Jace helped her sit against the wall. Then, sat beside her, his thoughts spinning. They had shared minds, feelings, and even pain, but now they were vulnerable. Watched, maybe even hunted. "You're not safe," he said. "If they see you protecting me, they might come for you next." "I chose this," she said simply. "I knew the risks when I volunteered." He looked at her, really looked at her for someone trained to follow orders and hide feelings. She had a strange kind of courage. "You didn't have to," he said quietly. "You could have stayed silent like the rest." She smiled just a little and missed all this drama. Jace laughed once, then sighed. "We need to figure out who's behind this before they act again." Vera nodded. "There is a way, but it's dangerous. I'm listening. There's a memory gate deeper inside this chamber," she said. "We can use it to trace the emotions that entered the ritual, every lie. Every echo, every attempt to break it leaves a mark. And what's the risk?" Jace asked. "If we get pulled into a false memory, we might not come back." He stood up, offering her his hand again. "Then let's make sure we come back together." They walked deeper into the chamber, past walls that seemed to breathe, and entered a smaller room where the air felt thicker. Like water, a circular mirror stood at the center, made of dark crystal, glowing faintly from within. "This is it," Vera said, her voice softer now. "Place your palm on it and let the truth guide you." Jace hesitated, then did as she said, feeling a rush of emotions that weren't his: anger, envy, fear. And then her voice, crying out in the dark. He turned sharply. "I heard you. What did I say?" she asked, stunned. "You said don't take him. I chose him." Viraya's face went pale. "That was my nightmare," she whispered. "I had it last night. Before you arrived, someone's been inside your mind." Jay said, pulling his hand back. "They've been feeding off your fear to try and tear the bond apart. Then we have to finish this bond faster," she said, eyes burning now. Before they twisted beyond repair, they stepped back. The mirror dimming behind them, the truth revealed but incomplete. A new danger had shown itself, hidden in thoughts. Moving in silence, waiting for the moment to strike, and if they didn't act soon, the next time the bond broke hit would break them both. Jace couldn't sleep, not even for a moment. Not after what they had just discovered. Vera rested across from him on a platform of soft crystal. Her breathing calm, but her body still twitching like she was dreaming something she couldn't escape. He paced the edges of the bonding chamber, watching the swirling lights ripple on the walls, the glowing veins pulsing in rhythm with something ancient and alive. A voice echoed inside his head, not Vera's, but his own. "If you fail, Earth falls." He closed his eyes and pushed the fear down, but just then he heard something. Metal scraping, a soft hiss. He turned instantly, muscles tensed, instinct on fire. From the edge of the wall, a shadow moved slow, careful, like it was trying not to be seen. Jace dropped low, reached for the small tool pouch on his belt, and pulled out a flat metal scanner. He wasn't allowed weapons, but this one had a pulse burst hidden inside. "Who's there?" he called softly, not loud enough to wake Vera, but strong enough for a threat to hear him. Silence, then movement again. Faster this time, and Jace didn't wait. He fired the pulse at the wall. Light exploded, and the figure let out a short scream before falling to the floor. He ran over quickly and rolled the figure over, revealing a young alien male with dark gray skin and golden eyes. Dressed in servant robes that now had a hidden knife sewn into the sleeve, Jace knelt beside him. "Who sent you?" the alien hissed. "She never trusts you." "Who?" But the male clenched his jaw and bit down too late. Jace saw the small glass pellet hidden in his mouth, a soft crack, a flash of blue. And the servant went limp, dead. Vera woke with a gasp and rushed over. "What happened?" "He was sneaking inside," Jace said, his voice tight. "He had a blade and a death pill." She stared at the body, then whispered, "He's from House Corrin. They oppose the Queen's command. So, they sent someone to kill me." Vera nodded slowly. "No. Worse," she said. "They wanted to make it look like you attacked one of us during the ritual." Jace understood immediately. "A setup, yes," she said, eyes dark with fear. "And if they twist this story, the Queen may end the bond and declare humans as traitors." Jace looked around, heart pounding. "We can't stay in this chamber. One got in. More will come. We have to finish the bond before they stop us," she said, "only then will the Queen listen to our truth." "But how do we finish it?" he asked. "There's more." She touched her temple. "We must enter the inner link where only bonded minds can survive." "Sounds painful," he muttered. "It is," she said, "but it's the only way left." He helped her to her feet, and they walked toward the center of the chamber again, where the floor slowly opened like a flower, revealing a hidden stairway glowing with soft red light. They descended into the unknown. Step by slow step, the air growing warmer, heavier, almost electric. At the bottom was a room unlike any they had seen. Black walls, no light, no sound. Just darkness thick enough to touch. Vera whispered, "Once we begin, we can't stop, not unless one of us dies." Jace reached for her hand. "Then let's not die." They stood in the center and placed their foreheads together. The silence around them broken only by their breathing. Then the bond snapped open like a gate, and they both dropped to their knees with a cry. Images rushed in like a tidal wave, their minds crashing into each other. His family, her training, his guilt, her loneliness, his hope, her pain. And in the middle of it all was the Queen, watching, but something else watched too. A second presence hidden in the shadows of their joined minds, cold and filled with hate. A voice like poison whispered, "This bond must die." Vera screamed as her body jerked, and Jace held her tightly, trying to push the presence away, but it slithered deeper, attacking her thoughts, her core, her light. He saw her memories burning, her younger self crying in a corner, her dreams. Turning to Ash, "No," Jace growled. "You don't get to take her." He focused all he had memories of Earth, of love, of strength, of standing when all others fell. And the shadow screamed as it cracked apart, vanishing into dust. Virea gasped and opened her eyes, her face soaked in tears. "You saved me? You saved me first," he whispered, still holding her close. "Now we're even." The black room slowly began to glow from the inside out, warm and golden. The inner link accepted them. Bonded and united, no longer strangers. No longer tools, just two souls who chose to stand together, even as war whispered behind the walls. The golden glow from the inner link faded slowly, leaving only the quiet hum of breath and pulse. Jace and Virea sat on the stone floor, their backs against the smooth black wall, hands still clasped together. Neither spoke, but something had changed between them. An invisible line had been crossed, not by force, not by command, but by choice. Vera looked at him, her eyes tired but steady. "I saw all of you." Jace nodded, "And I saw you." There was no shame now, no masks, no walls. They had survived the bond, survived the attack inside their minds. But the ritual was not yet complete. A soft chime echoed through the chamber, and a narrow door appeared, glowing softly with blue light. "It's the final path," Vera said. Standing slowly, the trial of fire. Jace raised an eyebrow. "That sounds relaxing." She gave a weak smile. "It's not." They stepped through the door together. Entering a new chamber unlike the others, the room was circular, filled with pillars of flame, each one burning silently, hovering above the ground. Between the flames floated stone platforms, and beyond them, raised dais with two glowing symbols. One for Earth, one for Zorelia. A voice filled the space, deep and ancient. "To prove unity, you must walk through fear and cross without falling." Jace glanced at Virea. "How do we walk through flame?" "Not with our feet," she said, "but with trust." Before he could question further, the floor beneath him cracked, and he was pulled into memory, his worst one. The battlefield, explosions around him, smoke choking his lungs, and a boy barely 15 crying for help. Jace had run to save him, dragging the boy behind a wall. But the medship arrived too late. The boy died in his arms, and Jace had never forgiven himself. The flames rose around him now, showing the boy's face. His blood, his last words, "I don't want to die." Jace collapsed to his knees, teeth clenched. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I tried." From the other side of the chamber, Virea screamed. She was inside her own memory, kneeling before the Queen. Forced to bow after her sister was exiled for showing love to a human she had sworn never to feel, never to choose emotion over duty, but now she had. And her shame burned hotter than the flames. "Your weakness destroyed your bloodline." The voice whispered in her mind, "You are unworthy." She shook her head, tears streaking down her face. "No, not weakness. I chose this path." As Jace pushed himself up, the boy's vision faded, replaced by fireless stone, and one platform lit up ahead of him. He stepped forward, heart still heavy, but legs firm. Virea did the same, her fire shrinking behind her. A single platform lighting beneath her feet. One step at a time, they moved forward, each new platform only appearing once the past had been faced. Closer and closer to the dais. But then the voice spoke again, colder than before. One heart still doubts. The flames rose high, and a third memory burst between them, one not from Jace, nor from Virea, but from someone watching them. A tall figure in a black robe, standing in a chamber of mirrors, speaking to others in secret. "Break the bond from within," the voice said. "Let the queen see the human as a danger." Jace's jaw tightened. It's a spy. Inside her court, Vera's fists clenched. House Moravan there, the only ones with access to mirror rooms. Then this wasn't just sabotage, Jace said, stepping on to the final stone. It's treason. Together, they reached the dais, and their hands hovered over the glowing symbols of their worlds. "Touch it with truth," the voice commanded, "or burn together." Jace turned to Virea. "Do you trust me?" She nodded, eyes locked with his. "I do." They touched the symbols, and a wave of light exploded from the dais, racing across the chamber, burning away the flames and shaking the walls. The light rose to the ceiling and shot upward through the floor of the palace above, outside the ritual chamber. Every noble in the queen's court gasped as the light burst into the throne room like a beam from the stars. Queen Thalara stood, eyes wide, watching as the ancient bond seal formed in the air above her, a sign not seen in hundreds of years. The ritual was complete, and the bond was real. The air outside the chamber had changed. The queen stood silently on the royal balcony as the golden bond light shimmered in the sky above the palace like a living ribbon. The nobles murmured in confusion, some in awe, others in fear. No one had seen that ancient seal in over 4 centuries, and no outsider had ever survived the full bond trial till now. Guards stood ready near the chamber gates, but none dared interrupt. Down below, the doors slid open, and Jace and Virea stepped out slowly, their skin glowing faintly with leftover energy from the ritual. Their fingers remained linked, not out of ceremony, but choice. A heavy silence followed their entrance, and then, at last, Queen Thalara descended from her throne, her eyes locked on them like twin moons. She stopped a few feet away, looking first at her own blood-born Virea, then at the human who had walked into her palace a stranger, and somehow now stood beside her chosen daughter. "The seal has appeared," she said quietly, her voice cold but cracking at the edge. "And that cannot be faked." Jace bowed slightly. "We didn't come to trick you." "Your Majesty, no," she said, studying him. "But others might have." She turned to Virea. "Did you see anything unusual during the bond?" Virea looked at Jace, then back at the queen. "Yes," she said firmly. "A false memory, not mine or his, it came from outside." The queen's eyes narrowed. "Show me." Virea placed 2 fingers against her temple, and the air rippled as an illusion played out between them, the mirror chamber, the cloaked figure, and the voice whispering treason. The room erupted in shocked gasps. "House Moravan," one elder hissed. "They've always hated humans." The queen raised her hand, silencing the crowd, then looked back at Jace. "And you endured all of this?" "I didn't do it alone," he said. "She saved me too." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the queen did something no one expected. She removed her crown and stepped down from the platform. Placing it gently in her hand, she walked to Jace and Virea and said, "You have done what none before could." Jace stayed still, unsure what to do. She looked at him, her voice lower now. "There was once a time when our people believed bonds like this could change the stars. And now?" He asked carefully. "Now," she said, "I see it again." Just as the room began to calm, a sharp screech echoed through the main doors, followed by a blast of purple smoke. Figures in black armor stormed inside, weapons drawn, and one of them shouted, "For Moravan, stop the human!" Guards rushed forward to defend the throne, but they were outnumbered. Jace instinctively pushed Viraya behind him and grabbed the blade from the fallen guard nearest him. Viraya reached into her robe and pulled a small pulse disc from a hidden slot, activating a wide shield between them and the attackers. Sparks flew, smoke thickened, and one of the nobles was pulled to the floor, screaming, "Get them out!" The queen shouted to her loyal guards, "Protect the bond." Jace turned to Viraya. "We need to move now." She nodded and guided him down a side hallway she knew from memory. One used only by royal family during war. The palace shook behind them, explosions rumbling through the stone as Moravan loyalists pushed forward. Viraya stopped at a control panel and slammed her hand down, opening a steel tunnel that led out toward the cliffs outside the city. "Once we're out," she panted, "we need to reach the Sky Hall. If we activate the beacon there, the Queen's high command will come." They raced into the tunnel, hearts pounding. Jace looked back once at the palace, glowing in smoke and fire, and whispered, "All this for one bond." Viraya didn't stop running, but she answered softly, "No. All this because that bond proved they were wrong." As they disappeared into the tunnel, behind them the royal crest burned, in the sky fading, but not broken, not yet. Wind howled through the rocky pass as Jace and Viraya climbed toward the Sky Hall. The mountain trail was steep and cold, lit only by the glowing lines under Viraya's feet guides built into the ground for emergency royal escape routes. Far behind them, the palace fires still burned, casting a faint orange glow across the night sky. Jace's lungs burned, but he didn't stop. Not even for a second. He had made a promise not to Earth, not to the Queen, but to Viraya. She was breathing heavily, but her steps remained steady, her grip strong as she led him up the final incline. When they reached the platform at the top, he finally understood why it was called the Sky Hall. It wasn't a building, it was a massive disk of silverstone hovering above the cliffs, surrounded by humming spires and an ancient console pulsing with blue light. Viraya stepped forward, placed her palm against the console, and the spires activated one by one, sending beams of light into the stars. "This is the beacon," she said, catching her breath. "If the Queen's loyal fleets are still out there, they'll come." Jace looked up at the stars, "And if they don't?" She didn't answer, but her silence said everything. Suddenly, a sharp, buzzing sound cut through the air, and Jace spun around, weapon drawn. 4 figures appeared at the edge of the stone path, black cloaks, glowing blades, Moravan assassins. The one in front pulled back their hood, revealing sharp purple eyes and a face twisted in anger. "You ruined everything, human," the assassin spat. "We were supposed to end the Queen's reign tonight." Viraya stepped forward, her voice cold. "As stone, you attacked the throne. You broke sacred law. And now you'll answer for it." "No," the assassin sneered. "You will die bonded to a mistake." Jace didn't wait. He threw a flash orb forward and charged, catching one of them off guard. Disarming him in a single move, Vera leapt into motion beside him, her movements smooth and fast, slicing with her energy baton, knocking another attacker to the floor. But one of the assassins got close to close and shoved a blade toward Jace's side. He caught it just in time, but the edge cut through his shoulder and pain exploded through him. He dropped to one knee, blood seeping through his shirt. "Jace!" Viraya screamed, striking the last attacker down before rushing to him. He gritted his teeth. "I'm fine. Just bleeding out a little." She pressed her hand to the wound, her fingers trembling. "Don't you dare die now." He looked up at her, managing a weak smile. "I won't. Not before I see how this ends." Then the sky changed. A soft hum rose through the clouds, followed by streaks of silver light ships, hundreds of them, descending with grace and fire. The Queen's fleet, the beacon, had worked. From above, drop pods opened and royal guards flooded the platform, surrounding the scene in seconds. capturing the wounded assassins, checking the wounded, securing the area. The queen herself arrived moments later in a high chariot, stepping out with fire in her eyes. She walked straight to Jace and Virea, looked at the blood on his shoulder, then at the dead Morvan fighters behind them. "You proved more than loyalty," she said softly. "You proved honor." Virea stood tall, her voice calm and clear. "We did what was right." The queen looked at Jace, her tone shifting. "Human, do you still stand with us after all this?" Jace wiped the blood from his mouth, smiled faintly, and said, "I bonded with her, didn't I?" The queen raised a hand, and in front of all gathered nobles and soldiers, she spoke the words of ancient law. "Let it be recorded that Earth is now bound to Zorelia," she said, "not through treaty or coin, but through living proof." The royal seal formed again above them, brighter than before. And for the first time in the queen's long reign, she bowed her head to a human. Virea looked at Jace as the sky turned golden behind them. "Do you know what this means?" He nodded slowly, still catching his breath. "We just made history," she smiled, then added quietly, "and you're stuck with me now." He laughed through the pain. "Best mistake I ever made." As the fleet spread across the sky and the fires below faded into dawn, the galaxy shifted on its axis. Because one alien girl said, "Only mating can convince her," and one human said, "I'll prove it."